Today, I'm going to talk about piano string design, construction and manufacturing, and how it presents a tuning challenge. Hi, this is Ted Barsula with Alamo Piano Galleries. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and also take a look at our store website at alamopianogalleries.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them. I hope this anticipates and brings, I'm anticipating a whole brand new set of comments on this, hopefully. And what I'm going to do today is I'm not really going to tune a piano. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to use this section between this frame and this frame because this is, what's interesting is I've never spoken about this before, but where the breaks are on the frame leads to where the breaks are in the keyboard design. And so there's another one here because it coincides with this break right here. And you'll be able to see this as we move along. But what I wanted to talk about is just concerning this section as an example for today. But bear in mind that this section is exactly like this one and this one. So it's basically 2/3 of the piano has this design and construction, and it's the way the pianos are strung up based on how they're manufactured and put together and designed and engineered. So starting with each section, you have pin number 1, like in here or here, for starting that section of keys, which is here. And the string starts here in this tuning pin, goes up around a hitch pin, comes back through the other pins across the, I'm at a loss here, across the bridge, comes down in and attaches to the second pin. So each one of these keys, starting from this section all forward, has 3 pins per key, meaning there's 3 strings per key. The interesting thing about this third string right here is that it starts here, it goes up to the hitch pin, comes back across the duplex scaling, through the pins, across the bridge, and comes back and ends up being the number 1 pin on this key. So the beginning of this string is this note, and the ending of it is this note. And then the other 2 string up and come back. And then the next key goes up, strings, and comes back, and then this string does the same thing which this one does. So about 1/3 of all the strings here belong to 2 different notes, 2 different frequencies. And what that presents is a tuning stability challenge, because theoretically, the tension on both sides of the string have to be different, otherwise they wouldn't be ringing at a different pitch. And they supposedly are zeroed out and balanced on this hitch pin. Whenever you go to a concert and you see a guy come out mid-concert at a solo piano concert and they have a tuner come out and adjust the strings, what he's really doing is going through each one of these set of 3 strings to find which one might be off. Here I have one off, so I'll find which one it is. 9 times out of 10, it's this shared string. And so that is what I am mentioning, is that on some pianos, and I have seen, I can't remember the name of it, it was a European piano, it actually had a string beginning, goes up around the hitch pin, and then the 3rd string goes up and it's wound off and it's closed off on its own separate hitch pin. Like the bass strings, they have a beginning and an end to each string, where these have a beginning and an end around a hitch pin. So the beginning and end are on the tuning pins and not on the end. And so I have, if you look at some other European pianos, particularly Bluesners and Bosendorfers, they're individually strung, and that increases the cost of stringing the piano based on the cost of the material, because the string has an open end here that you wrap around the tuning pin, and up here it has to be spun into a loop and then put on a hitch pin, and then the next string, they're all done the same way. like the bass strings, but here they use a hitch pin. And so I reminded the people at Kauai that the SK has an EX on the end of it. That means it's an experimental piano. And I think they should experiment and individually string the entire piano, meaning that there'll be a beginning and an end to each one of the strings. The downside to that is it does cost more. You do have to put in another hitch pin, and you also have to wind every single one of those strings, which means that they all have to be put on a lathe and spun out by hand and turned into a loop so they can feed back through across the bridge and come back into the tuning pins. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. And if you haven't looked into the stringing design and how pianos are manufactured and with these hitch pins and how they would be different if every string had a beginning and an end, a beginning and an end, rather than loop around a hitch pin. And so that was my comment about the challenge for tuning, and also the challenge to maybe build an SKEX that is individually strung up. I think that would be a nice experiment to perform on that piano. And with that, I am Ted Barslew with Alamo Piano Galleries, and please leave your questions and comments about what I'm talking about and how these pianos, this also applies to uprights, and this is the majority of pianos in the world are manufactured in this fashion. And I think there's a simpler, easier way, but it does increase the cost of labor and also production. We'll see you next time. Thanks you so much for watching and listening.